Hello everyone, today we are going to study the nervous system part 3, in which we will be studying about the parts of nervous system. Nervous system in human beings and other animals can be divided basically into two subdivisions. Earlier there were three subdivisions. The third part was autonomic nervous system, but now it has been included in several of the books in the peripheral nervous system. This is the central nervous system. This is the first subdivision and the most important part, and the second one is peripheral nervous system. So now it has two divisions. Earlier there were three. I told you the autonomic nervous system also, which is now a part of peripheral nervous system. So central nervous system is so called because it is centrally placed. The central nervous system is having all the parts: brain and spinal cord exactly in the center of the body. Scientifically, brain is called as encephalon. Cephalic means head, en means within. So brain is within head. Scientifically we call it as encephalon, and spinal cord is called as myelon. Okay, so these two are present exactly in the center. We call it as central nervous system. Now what is periphery? Periphery means whatever nerves that arise from the central nervous system, that is from the brain certain nerves arise, and from the spinal cord certain nerves arise. They constitute the peripheral nervous system. Now I told you that it has been divided into two parts. First one is somatic nervous system, and the second one is autonomic nervous system. Somatic nervous system has the nerves that arise from the central nervous system, and they innervate in all those organs which are voluntary. Voluntary means these are under our control. So sometimes this is also known as voluntary nervous system. But autonomic nervous system regulates on its own. All the nerves that go and innervate into these or the visceral organs like heart, lungs, etc., which are not under our control, these nerves are actually constituting the autonomic nervous system. So basically somatic nervous system is voluntary and autonomic nervous system is involuntary. Now this is the figure which is representing a human body, an outline, and this shows the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Now this is the central nervous system which is shown in white. See the brain over here inside the head. I told you, so the name is encephalon, within head, and the spinal cord arises from the brain and runs till the lower part of the torso. So this is what is the spinal cord, and from these, that is the brain and the spinal cord, there are several nerves that are arising and moving to the periphery of the body. What do you mean by the periphery? The sides of the body. So from the center the nerves arise to the sides of the body, so they constitute the peripheral nervous system. There basically of two types: cranial nerves and spinal nerves. So cranial nerves, that which is arising from the cranium. The cranium is actually a bony box which surrounds the brain. This head-like structure inside the skull, the cranium is present. So all the nerves that are arising from the cranium are called as cranial nerves. These are 12 pairs. And spinal nerves arise from the spinal cord, and these are 31 pairs. Pairs means 31 on this side and 31 on this side. Similarly, cranial nerves 12 on this side, 12 on this side. So they constitute the peripheral nervous system. Now brain is further divided into three parts. Forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. Forebrain is also known as prosencephalon. Encephalon is same, just PROS is added, otherwise it looks like a big term. Midbrain, MES, then encephalon, mesencephalon. So we have just added this encephalon in front of it, MES, and hindbrain is rhombencephalon. These are the scientific terms for forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Now forebrain consists of cerebrum. This is the largest part. If the entire brain is divided into 3 parts, 2 parts of the brain is occupied by cerebrum. So this is the largest part, cerebrum. Then comes diencephalon and olfactory lobes. All this makes up the forebrain. Now comes the midbrain. The midbrain is made up of crura cerebri. This has one more name. We also call it as cerebral peduncles. And the second part is corpora quadrigemina. And the third part, that is the hindbrain, rhombencephalon, consists of medulla oblongata, cerebellum and pons varoli. In my upcoming video, I will be explaining each part and the functions also of forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. So these are the subdivisions of brain. Now let us study the details of peripheral nervous system. It was divided into somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system, I told you. Now somatic nervous system consists of 2 types of nerves, the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves. Cranial nerves are 12 pairs and spinal nerves are 31 pairs. Cranial nerves are those nerves which arise from the brain region. The brain is present inside the brain box called as cranium. So cranium is actually the brain box. In other words, from this chapter there are several objective questions that come in the exam. So objective questions in ICSE forms 40 marks, that is 50% of the question paper. So all these terms actually make up that objective part. So the terms should be memorized by you very nicely. The cranial nerves 12 pairs and spinal nerves 31 pairs. The cranial nerves can be either sensory or motor or can be mixed. Earlier in my previous video also I have discussed sensory nerves are those nerves which arise from the sense organs and they enter into the central nervous system. From the sense organs it goes to the central nervous system. And what are motor nerves? Just the reverse. From the central nervous system it comes to the effector organ. It can be any organ which brings the effect in the body. So these are sensory nerves, the motor nerves, and the nerves which behave in both the manner are called as mixed nerves. So cranial nerves can be either. They can be the sensory, motor or mixed nerves, and their names decide actually the name of the nerve. That is optic nerve, that means it will go and innervate into the eye. Auditory nerve, it will go and innervate into the ear. So the names are very easy to learn. Cranial nerves 12 pairs. Spinal nerves. Spinal nerves, as the name arises, it arises from the spinal cord and all of them are mixed. They behave both as sensory and motor nerves. Now spinal nerves are 31. The first 8 pairs arises from the neck region. We call it as cervical. Cervical means the neck region. From here 8 pairs of nerves arise. From the neck 8 this side and 8 this side. Then from below cervical is the thoracic region. 12 pairs. Then comes the lumbar. 5 pairs. Then sacral. 5 pairs. And then last coccyx or coccygeal is the same. From this, one pair. So when you total this up, these are 31 pairs. So the nerves that arise from different parts of the spinal cord, cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral and coccyx, together comprise the 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Now let us see the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is also divided into two parts: sympathetic and parasympathetic. Now earlier also I told you why is it called as autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is self-regulated. We do not have any control and it is involuntary in function, because all these nerves innervate the visceral organs which we cannot control. So heart, etc. I told you all the muscles, the smooth muscles that are present, the endocrine glands, all of these are a part of autonomic nervous system. So sympathetic, parasympathetic are two different types of the nerves that are present, and they are antagonistic. What do you mean by antagonistic? Antagonistic means just the opposite. That means if one of the nerve, that is sympathetic nerve, is innervating the heart, it will increase the heart rate. Parasympathetic will just decrease it. So if they are functioning just the opposite, we call such as antagonistic function. If sympathetic nerve is dilating the eye pupil, then parasympathetic nerve will constrict the pupil. So just opposite function it performs. So it is regulated on its own. So when we'll be studying it in detail, I'll be telling you this with examples. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in the comment section, and see the questions for the upcoming board exams in the description box. Thank you.